had a wonderful weekend, not too hungover. I have invited my colleague Cor Schallenbeek to film me while I'm doing a little teaching, because as teachers at the Hanze and any university or college hall, the teachers are also constantly in development. And so we learn about teaching as we go. And even though I've been doing this for 9 years, it doesn't matter. There's always something more to learn. Like, we all are constantly in development, and we can always use tips and tricks on how to improve. So of course, going to do a little filming, and then in class, in my class, I get feedback on the way I teach. So that's his role this morning. Let's go back to last week. Last week we did a bunch of stuff, LexisNexis, remember? And we did a bunch of research exercises. Are there any questions about what we handled last week? At all? Nothing? No? Okay. Let me know, right, as we go along, whether there are any questions, so I can kind of know where the difficult spots are and where I need to put more attention. So let's move on then to this week's lecture. So in the first week we did this, yes, practice-oriented research in public affairs. In week 2 we looked at the research objective and we explored online media, Cousteau, remember? And last week we did the searching of the Hanze library databases. And this week we're going to talk about, well, after you have collected all this data, how do you analyze it? And what do you analyze it for? So, conclusions, right? Conclusions are the most important thing when you do research. Why? Because that's what you base your recommendation on. Yes? Good morning. You've also critically assessed these messages of type of source, opinion, similarity, and differences. Remember we did that exercise in class where we looked at when is that publication, right? What was the date? What was the author? What was it about? Was it fact-based? Was it opinion-based? We looked at possible research that was contradicting, right? All those things. And we looked at conclusions and reliability factors. We also looked at what type of source am I drawing my research from, right? A newspaper article is different from an academic publication. Try to be in time, you guys. Please sit down. Sometimes the bus is late, and it's hard though, you miss something. Reliability is where we end then, yes? Because you can have a bunch of data, but if you don't have the right type of data, then how reliable is that? So you need to put several sources of data next to each other to see whether something is valid in your conclusion of it. And there needs to be a variety of sources. Yes, if you only have newspaper article data that's very opinionated. What's going wrong? Nothing's broken. Then that would be an issue when you compare it to, say, academic journals only, right? Where it's only fact-based. So you need to have a wide range of types of research to draw information from. Make sense? All right. So, and obviously, as you start sampling all this information from this database, LexisNexis, for example, you need to be aware of this, because otherwise you don't have a right sampling of information. Make sense? Any questions about this? It's pretty straightforward. Yes? The slides they can be a little dry, but it's basically an oversight of what we looked at yesterday. Last week, sorry. What's all this noise? Now, that's kind of a strange time to start cleaning the, the campus when we're teaching. All right, let's try to speak up. Yeah, thank you, Bill. You're welcome. The aspects that you paid attention to in your analysis, right, the reliability of your findings, conclusions, and recommendations depend on that. Right? Remember that when we formulated the research objective, you could leave out a whole bunch, and you need to demarcate your objective, so it's not too big, right? So what are you shining your light on? Remember we looked at that in the media as well, right? What do you leave out, what do you include? And then obviously you have to look at the method that you applied in your research to go from the analysis to conclusions, right? So remember we started the research, we started with a problem, here's the issue, right? And here's the recommendation. I'm closing this window too, so it's way too... So here we started looking at existing literature, yes? It could be all kinds. Newspapers, academic publications, books, scholarly stuff. And here we're going to be doing field work, surveys, questionnaires, right? So, in order to arrive at a recommendation, the way you have executed this part has to be validated, it has to be reliable, it has to be, you have to actually, within your research paper, show that your methods are reliable as well. Make sense? Because otherwise they're going to say, well, I've read your report and it's all nice and good, but what do you base this all on? Right? You have to have an answer. You have to take responsibility for every step you take from going from A to C. Make sense? Because that makes once your research is reliable, then policy changes might very well be taken from your advice. Or if it's for a business, right? Any kind of recommendations you make for a business might actually get implemented. And that's what you want, right? And that's what your client wants from you as well. Okay. So in order to do that, to have reliable research, other people have got to be able to read your research report and say, yes, that person really did a good job selecting a nice variety of source material, facts, data, and opinions, field research, and they explained how they did it. Right? They had a valid method to analyze the data. Make sense? Right, so that's always part of your research report as well. We go into media analysis here, and that's a lot of text. Points of interest in media analysis. How do the media frame public discussion of an issue? Well, they kind of already tell us right here, right? By repeating various story elements using common metaphors, quoting similar people. Can we think back to last week where we talked about Bill O'Reilly and that discussion that he had, the clip that we looked at, a YouTube clip? If you think back to that, what kind of framing example was that?
He got personal because he was referring to the parents of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he touched the viewers emotional, that they feel part of it and of that guy and his opinion.
You feel Bill O'Reilly did that?
Yes, that he refers to the parents.
Make it so personal for him. Yes. Jeremy was his name, right?
Yes.
The boy. Any other input on that framing? What was Bill O'Reilly doing during that interview? How was he framing? Yes.
Selection.
Yes.
Because maybe that's repetition. Like he was repeating that the guy's dad had died in the war or something, and that just like that he should feel angry towards them because his dad died just for that fact. And so he was really repeating that, but actually the guy was saying himself that he didn't feel that way.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job standing up for himself.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point. Bill O'Reilly was trying to emotionally unsettle this guy, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Try and take him out in the discussion. But what was Bill O'Reilly's agenda? Why did he have that interview with Jeremy?
Because he wanted to explain the American public why they are going to war, and that it is important to go to war because of that reason, because of 9/11 and so on.
So the reason is he wants to keep the invasion of Afghan war of Iraq war is legitimate from Americans' perspective. Therefore, he wants to tell the public that we made the right choice, and your father died for
a good cause.
Yes, good cause.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. What else? Some folks who haven't raised their hands in a while. We know now that Bill O'Reilly is pro-war, right? Can we conclude that?
Yes.
So, and he used it by making Jeremy insecure about himself because he attacked the family. Right? Yes.
Can you say he's pro-war? I would say he's very pro-serving your nation, serving your country, and that's different than being pro-war, right?
Yeah, that's also a good point. I think at that time
I
in
can't
the United
imagine
States,
anyone being for war. Like, let's all have war. It sounds really terrible.
A lot of money with that.
Yeah, true.
right, so there's financial incentives, and there's political incentives. And if you look back, I used to live there in that time. Back then, the United States was very much, had a big interest in building Taiwan. And we also talked about some people think that the whole 9/11 thing was framed, right? It actually happened. Okay, so in any case, we now know from that example that the media frames the public discussion of an issue. That was a really pretty outrageous example of it, to kind of bring the message across. But often it happens in more subtle ways. And the whole idea of what you're learning, the learning material in this blog, is that you become aware of how the news and the media is framing information. Okay? So make sure that when you read the paper and when you look at the news, you start thinking like, okay, what are they really saying? Or what do they want me to believe? Right? What's the agenda here? So you become more conscious of that. So we know repeating various story elements, in this case hammering on the emotion about the father, was important. Does anyone remember any metaphors from that particular discussion? It's a little far away for me after a week to come up with that, and possibly for you as well. But, yes?
He said, because of your father, I don't want to say this and that. So, I think to the respect to your father.
Yeah, the
something.
honoring of your father.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blame your mother in public because of that. I don't.
Yeah. And thereby he was kind of implying that the son wasn't respectful to his father's
and
pastor.
was a liar.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Yes, and so what Bill O'Reilly probably also did, in that you took it out, can't pull it back, it's a little too long ago, but probably quoting colleagues or politicians that agree with him. Right? That's another way to kind of support the basis of your opinion. So when you look at, let's stick with the Bill O'Reilly example, you need to see that the spokesperson at that particular moment is built